Okay, our next question comes to us from Luke Camp, and he says, when's the right time to go heavy after an injury?
All right, I'm going to preface this. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physical therapist, I have no background in therapy at all. You shouldn't listen to anything I say, you shouldn't do anything that I tell you to do. Everything that I'm going to say is based upon my own personal opinion and my own personal experience. You shouldn't do what I say, you shouldn't follow my lead. I think that covers all my disclaimers. Now, the answer. My answer, and how I did it. Me, not anybody else. The one thing that I saw with injuries, and it was addressed in a question that I was asked before, and that was the mental aspect. If it's a muscle tissue injury, a tendon injury, something that's not, a joint, say that, a lot of times if it's a tendon tear or a muscle tear, they're drilling that thing back in with a screw and they're sewing it together. It's really, once it's started to lay down scar tissue and heal, it's not really going to go anywhere. You might tear the other one, but that one, I don't want to say it's bulletproof, but it's pretty solid. When they reattached my pec tendon, it was screwed back in there, and I was told that's stronger than what this one is. And so the only limiting factor then is kind of mental. And what I've seen with guys who come back, pec tears I'll use an example because I've dealt with that a lot with muscle tears and strains and ruptures, is say my first pec strain happened at 3:15. And I take my time coming back. Scar tissue is going to form. Scar tissue more than likely is also going to tear away at a certain point in time. As soon as I started to get close to 3:15, you get real gun shy. It's like, oh shit, this is when it happened. And you also get real gun shy when you start to strain. Especially if it happened when you were straining. So you start pushing into it and you start thinking, man, I hope it doesn't go, I hope it doesn't go. And that's how I was throughout a lot of the strains and tears and so forth that I had. When I changed it and tried something different, and I'm not saying it's the right way, it's what I did, is after I had shoulder surgery for the first time, pretty much I was told, you got to go ahead, you can do whatever you want to do, and this was 2 days after surgery, so I'm getting active release therapy and all this other kind of stuff. And I had a doctor that was a little bit more progressive, and I ran some of the ideas past him that I wanted to do. My goal was I still was going to stick to the normal therapy that they have, the bands and swimming pool bullshit, all the other stuff you got to do. But I wanted to bench, and I wanted to strain when I benched. Now, you're just out of surgery, so the first goal is to get full range of motion. You can't really do anything until you get full range of motion. So once you get your range of motion back, then you're good to go. So what I did was, when you're talking about going heavy, heavy is relative to how strong that muscle is and how strong the muscle connection is, the muscle firing is, and the muscle activation is. So I was doing board presses I remember doing a 3-board press, and I'd have somebody lift the bar out to me, and it hurt too bad just to hold it. So we went reverse band, a reverse mini band, a 45-pound bar, and brought it down to a 3-board, and then it took forever to press it back up, and then pressed it back up. Throughout time, I kept doing, my normal standard rehab, the high reps, all the other stuff you're supposed to do, but I kept doing those singles, on different boards. When it was really light like that, a few times a week, as it got heavier, I had to knock it down. Because what I was really looking for out of that wasn't really strengthening the muscle. I wanted to convince myself that that tendon and that muscle could strain without blowing back apart. All right, and I knew when it took, 10 seconds to be able to push 65 pounds off of one board to lock out, and it took everything I had to finish the lift with with that arm. It's not going anywhere, because that was the greatest strain I was going to be able to put it under. At that point, weight's only a marker. It's only it's a relative. It's the strain that matters. So I think from that standpoint, from what I learned is you gotta build that confidence to where you are straining, and by doing that at 65 pounds, 135, 185, I never had that problem to where, oh shit, at 600 pounds, this is where I blew it off last time. I've already been straining for a long time before that. So the answer is it's relative, and you need to work with, you know, your doctor and your therapist, but I do think that when you work with them, you need to make sure you're working with good ones, and you got to throw out some progressive ideas like what I'm talking about, because that mental aspect will absolutely, for most people I've seen, it will absolutely tear you up. It will destroy you because you just won't be able to. You're afraid every time you strain, you're going to get hurt. So if you're going to be afraid, let's be afraid with 45 pounds, 65 pounds. That way, by the time you get to 225, that fear is gone.